He also, in a very tragic case, one of the insurance arm of Carney's company, Brookfield, profited by denying the insurance claims of coal miners dying from black lung. They profited off that. In fact, this company lost in court. The court found that the company was wrong. Now, Mr. Carney needs to tell us, is he still invested in a company that abuses workers' rights? A trades worker who goes across the country has to redo the 4-day health and safety program. So they might have done the entire program already in another province. But they're going from Timmins to Fort Mac. They arrive, their first 4 days is without pay because they're not allowed to work, and they do a course that they've already taken in another province. I'm going to bring the provinces and their labor ministers together to harmonize and get mutual recognition. So if you've got the health and safety ticket in one province, you're recognized to work in all the provinces. But just wait, you'll see, he'll be copying my next announcement. It will be, about 3 or 4 days, he'll be ripping off the announcement that I made today as he pretends to support the things that I stand for 30 days before an election. Thank you very much, everyone. And before I begin, I want to thank LIUNA, a great union that has been fighting for, training, and representing workers in this area for decades. Steve, Luigi. We also have Steve and Luigi hosted us here. I really appreciate them. I also want to acknowledge Barbara Ball. She's our common sense conservative candidate in Nepean. Nepean, a great place to be in. And we have the best candidate. She started off in the artillery. In what year? 1992. And then she went on to the police force. So I'm saying boots, not suits. It's not just the trades, but it's also the police and the troops that wear the boots. And she knows how to pick up 100-pound artillery shells. So she's strong enough to be a representative, probably stronger than anyone else in the House of Commons. And we can't wait till she gets elected to fight for the people in this community. And I'm also really excited to be here I want to say hello to Rochelle's grandmother. Rochelle, your grandmother is watching on Facebook, you told me. So Rochelle's grandmother is out there, and I know she's very proud of you. So, and with good reason. So I learned about LIUNA. I used to go to my buddy's parents' place for Sunday dinner, and they have a grotto, an Italian family. They have their beautiful vegetables they grow in their backyard. And the Sunday, the grandkids, the cousins, the uncles, the aunts, they all come over. And the parents, they came here in '73, never actually learned how to speak English. But Albino was the father, and he would sit at the head of the table, obviously, and he would talk to me through his son in Italian. And I saw this plaque on the wall. It said LIUNA. I said, "What's that?" And the one English word he knew, pension. He pointed up, he said, "That's my pension." Now the Liberals claim that if you elect them for a 4th term, that they will be different than the first 3 terms. Well, we know that that's not true. The only way to get a change is by putting Canada first, by electing a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, build homes, unleash resources, and bring home our jobs and economic sovereignty from the Americans. That's why I'm announcing today part of my Bring It Home economic plan. It's called Boots, Not Suits. This plan will bring home a country that works for the people who do the work. And here's the plan. First, we will reinstate the $4,000 apprenticeship grant to help our young apprentices with the cost of training up. This is a grant the previous Conservative government brought in, and the current Liberal government had planned to phase out at the end of this month. Well, I'm here to announce that my government will reinstate it to give direct financial support to young apprentices. I'm going to be bringing it back and putting the money in their pockets. Second, Conservatives will provide funds to union training halls like this one for machines, bricks, mortar, walls, floors, all of the above, with the goal of training 350,000 apprentices and other trades workers over the next 5 years. We'll make sure that actual buildings and centres are eligible, that they get this UTIP funding. The smaller unions and locals will also be eligible, and they will be eligible for up to 75% of the cost of building and running these programs. Third, we'll create a special rapid class of EI that makes it easier for tradespeople to get the money that they are owed from EI while they do their training. Right now, they have to wait weeks on end without any money coming in as they're training up, and that puts them in a tough spot paying the rent. My government will ensure tradespeople are not punished for training, and we'll do this by allowing the union training halls to register the apprentices for EI. So it will allow you guys to register them, get them started, and that way when they join the program, their EI is ready to go. They got money in their pocket and food in their fridge. Fourth, we'll work with the provinces to harmonize the health and safety regulations so our trade workers can go anywhere. Right now, believe it or not, a trades worker who goes across the country has to redo the 4-day health and safety program. So they might have done the entire program already in another province. But say they're going from Timmins to Fort Mac, they arrive, their first 4 days is without pay because they're not allowed to work, and they do a course that they've already taken in another province. I'm going to bring the provinces and their labour ministers together to harmonize and get mutual recognition. So if you've got the health and safety ticket in one province, you're recognized to work in all the provinces. This is common sense, and we're going to pay for all this by cutting bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, and waste. Like I said, more boots, less suits. You know, and we've lost $500 billion because of the high taxes here. Mr. Carney supported carbon taxes on Canada while he invested in American coal. He opposed the Northern Gateway pipeline in Canada while he bought pipelines abroad. Yesterday, his newly appointed Environment Minister reaffirmed that the Carney Liberal government will impose an energy production cap, which the Parliamentary Budget Officer just confirmed will cost 50,000 jobs. This proves that Carney is still faithful to his radical, keep it in the ground, net zero insanity. Nothing. We know that Mr. Carney's company abuses workers. They bust unions. They invested in companies that busted unions. He also, in a very tragic case, one of the insurance arm of Carney's company, Brookfield, profited by denying the insurance claims of coal miners dying from black lung. These are workers who, by breathing in dust in the ground, became extremely sick, and when they went to get the insurance that they had paid for, they were denied by Carney's, the company that does the insurance for Brookfield. They profited off that. In fact, this company lost in court. The court found that the company was wrong. Now, Mr. Carney needs to tell us, is he still invested in a company that abuses workers' rights and denies coal miners and their widows the benefits that they deserve? Mark Carney will never stand up for the working people. He will only stand up for millionaire and billionaire global elites. That is all that he has ever done. But just wait, you'll see. He'll be copying my next announcement. It will be, what, about 3 or 4 days, he'll be ripping off the announcement that I made today as he pretends to support the things that I stand for 30 days before an election. The choice in the next election is very clear. One is to bring jobs home. The other is to ship jobs abroad. One is to bring real change. The other is to cling on to power for a fourth consecutive term. One is to cut taxes, and the other is to raise them. One puts Canada first, the other puts Carney first. And the question in the next election will be further, can Canada afford a fourth term of the Liberals, led by Mark Carney, who, working with Trudeau, made Canada weaker and poorer, and is too weak and conflicted to stand up to Donald Trump? Or do we think it's time for a real change with a Conservative government that will stand up to Trump from a position of strength, unleash growth, bring home jobs, axe taxes, build homes, secure our border, rebuild our military, and put Canada first? We need to change. We need to take back control of our economy. We need to stand by the people who build stuff, dig stuff, move stuff, make stuff. That's why common sense Conservatives will always stand with our employers and our unions right across this country to unleash the great Canadian promise that Albino Greco experienced when he arrived here back in 1973. The promise that was made and kept to my wife Anna and I, and the promise that we will restore for all Canadians. Where hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful home on a safe street, protected by brave troops under a proud flag. Canada first. Let's bring it home.
Yesterday there was a report saying that you'd had a conversation with the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford, to congratulate him on his win, and that you reportedly asked him for his support during the campaign, which he supposedly did not accept or was not willing to do that. So what is your version of that conversation? Why did it take nearly 3 weeks to congratulate him on his win? And why is it that we so rarely hear either of you say very nice things about each other?
Well, the report is not accurate. I did speak to the Premier, as I do with all premiers whenever they want to talk, and we talk about bringing home jobs to Canada, supporting the Ring of Fire, cutting taxes, unleashing our production, and reversing the lost Liberal decade of the last 9 years. And I'll be working with Premier Ford and all premiers across this country to bring home the country that we knew and still love, a country where hard work will get people a great life in a safe community, living in a beautiful home under our beautiful flag. There's a big difference between the Carney-Trudeau Liberals and I. They have driven $500 billion of investment out of our country with heavy taxes and by blocking resource projects in this country. That drives up pollution in other countries, because other industries abroad are more polluting. I'll give you the example of aluminum. In Canada, to make 1 ton of aluminum, you have 2 tons of greenhouse gases emitted. In China, 1 ton of aluminum means emitting 12 tons of greenhouse gases. By taxing our energy, our aluminum makers, we drive the production to China, where the emissions will be much higher. The atmosphere doesn't care where the emissions happen. It's the same from a chemical point of view. And so what I'm saying is, let's bring down global emissions by bringing production back. Get rid of the industrial carbon tax and bring in a tax reward for businesses that produce steel, aluminum, cement, fertilizer, and other commodities below the global emissions average. So it's a global problem with a local solution. And that solution is to bring home our production and paychecks by repealing Liberal taxes, Liberal anti-development laws, and opening up our economy to the world so that we can bring down pollution. That's how you put Canada first.
Thank you.
Next. Earlier this week, Mark Carney added Mark Wiseman to his list of advisors on Canada-U.S. relations. Mark Wiseman was the co-founder of the Century Initiative, a lobby group that wants to bring Canada's population to 100 million people by 2100. Can I get your reaction to that, and what do you think, how do you feel about the idea of rapidly expanding Canada's population to reach 100 million by the end of the century?
Well, it shows that the Liberals would be no different in a 4th term than they were in the first 3. The Liberals destroyed our immigration system in their first 3 terms in power. They followed a radical globalist ideology of massive, uncontrolled population growth that put strain on our housing market, our health care, and our job market. Now, corporate elites like Mr. Wiseman and Mr. Carney loved it because it drives wages down. It takes jobs away from our workers. We voted against the Century Initiative in the House of Commons, and the Liberals voted for the Century Initiative unanimously. That is the radical Liberal agenda on immigration. We will get back to moderate, reasonable levels of immigration. Our country was built by common sense immigration, but we need to ensure we grow the housing supply, our health care, and our jobs faster than we grow our population. And so I will reject the Century Initiative and get back to common sense immigration that brings people to Canada in numbers that we can hire, that we can house, and that we can care for. That was the best immigration system in the world, and we're going to bring it home again.
She said if these demands were not met within 6 months of the new mandate, there would be a national unity crisis. Are you willing to commit right now to meeting the demands that that Premier Smith has enumerated?
I think Premier Smith's demands are very reasonable. You'll have to see the rest of our platform roll out. in due course, but she was making clear that Mark Carney's using weasel words. He's pretending that he suddenly, 30 days before an election, changed his entire radical net zero, keep it in the ground ideology. Mr. Carney, I can't even believe he would have the audacity to show up in Edmonton. He opposed the Northern Gateway pipeline in a committee testimony while his company was buying pipelines in the Middle East. That pipeline would have created jobs for Edmontonians. It would have been a boom for Northern Alberta. And all the money that would have rushed into Edmonton would have created opportunities. And he opposed it. It's on the record. He supports carbon taxes in Canada while he invests in American coal. Yesterday, his environment minister confirmed that the energy cap will stay in place if the Liberals are in office. So, despite the fact that they're trying to put on this mask last minute before the election, make no mistake, a fourth Liberal term will be exactly like the previous three. It has been the lost Liberal decade. And this is the question Canadians are going to have to answer, do we want a fourth term of Liberals who block resources, tax our people, drive up our costs, unleash crime in our community, and make us weak and defenseless facing the Americans? Or do we want to put Canada first for a change by axing taxes, unleashing our resources, building homes, locking up criminals, rebuilding our military, standing up to the Americans, and putting Canada first?
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference.
And that will be one of the things Canadians will have to decide on. Are you going to elect the Liberals to a fourth term, to a Prime Minister who puts himself and his own financial interests ahead of Canada? Or are you ready to put Canada first for a change with a government that will axe taxes, unleash our resources, build homes, stop crime, rebuild our military, and stand up for this country? Thank you very much. Great to be with you.